I'm here today to do one of my favorite new series on my channel, and that is Author Highlights. Today I'm going to be spotlighting Juliet Marllier, that wonderful New Zealand fantasy author. Hello everyone, it is Samantha. I hope you guys are having a fabulous day. I'm very excited about today's video because I get to talk about another one of my favorite authors, and that is the lovely Juliet Marllier, that wonderful fantasy author from the wonderful country of New Zealand, the place where hobbits reside. Though I haven't read all of Juliet Marllier's works, I have been very familiar with her writing for many, many years. I first encountered her when I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and I really fell in love with her books, particularly since her first trilogy that I read was the Sevenwaters Trilogy, which takes place in Ireland. Her writing is also often based on mythologies and fairy tales, and that really comes through in her writing. She has this very whimsical way of weaving the story together that you can't help but fall in love with the storytelling. She writes everything in such a vivid and picturesque way that you just kind of dive into the story and you can't help but get immersed into it and root for these characters and see what's going to happen. So I've definitely fallen in love with her writing, and it's just really beautiful. Her writing is mostly fantasy, and it is mostly historical fantasy, so it takes place within our world, but in a different time period. For instance, the Sevenwaters Trilogy takes place during the Dark Ages in Ireland. Her Wildwood series, Duology, takes place in Romania and Turkey. So it takes place in our world, but in historical time periods, and it is really, really fantastic. She really is able to capture the essence of that time period. You feel like you're living in it, and you can almost see and taste it, and it is really, really fabulous. So the first trilogy by Juliet Marllier is her Sevenwaters Trilogy, which has really turned more into a 6-book series because she ended up writing like a second trilogy, though with all the same types of characters, but nonetheless, it is excellent. First book in this trilogy is Daughter of the Forest. Book 2 is Son of Shadows. Book 3 is Child of the Prophecy. Book 4 is Heir to Sevenwaters. Book 5 is Seer of Sevenwaters. And Book 6 is Flame of Sevenwaters. I really, really love this trilogy. This is where I started with her, and I think this is a perfect starting place for Juliet Marllier's works. It takes place in Ireland during the Middle Ages, and it follows basically the Irish struggle against the English, and also with the Fae. Daughter of the Forest starts out with our main protagonist, Sorcha, and her 6 brothers. She lives in this castle in Sevenwaters, that's what their land is called, in Ireland, and her father is widowed, and he ends up marrying a new woman, and the children soon find out that she is actually an evil witch from the Fae world. But of course they can't tell their father this, he won't believe them, and she ends up cursing Sorcha's brothers to live as swans, and in order to break the curse, Sorcha ends up having to spend a year weaving these shirts of nettle without speaking a word, and this of course is going to ruin her hands, so she has to try and do it in hiding because she has one day in which to put these shirts over her brother's necks so they can turn back into human form. So of course a lot of pain and suffering ensues. There is some romance, but there's also some very happy moments. And the ending I absolutely adored to this book. It's definitely a very whimsical book. It involves the Fae and the fairy community, and just they have to work with the Fae, and it is absolutely fantastic. The rest of the books in the series take up with each new generation. So Son of Shadows follows Sorcha's daughter and her quest, and then her kids and her sister's siblings take up the 3rd book, and so on. So it basically follows the different generations of this family. The second duology by Juliet Marllier is Wildwood Dancing. This is her young adult duology. The Wildwood Dancing duology takes place in Romania, and it follows a group of 5 sisters. It is basically also based on the fairy tale 12 Dancing Princesses as well as other fairy tales. But basically these sisters have access to the Fae world, where they go every full moon to dance with the Fae folk. But as some very sinister people end up showing up at the Fae court, and Jenna's father ends up having to leave, and Jenna has to take care of her siblings, protect their secret about the Fae, as well as dealing with her cousin who's kind of trying to take over the family business and farm. So there's a lot going on, and their worlds kind of ended up becoming more intercrossed with the Fae world, and it is excellent. Absolutely adored it. The second book is Cybele's Secret, and as one of my booktube friends said, it's kind of like Juliet Marllier does Indiana Jones. It is very much like that. This one takes place in Turkey with Jenna's sister, and she basically has to help the Fae folk recover this goddess statue, and she finds love on the way, and it is just as fantastic, and I absolutely love both of these books. They take place in about the 1600s, and again, it's very vivid, very magical, and just a lot of fun. The other series by Juliet Marillier include Saga of the Light Isles, which includes Wolfskin and Foxmask. She also has the Bridei Chronicles, which includes the Dark Mirror, the Blade of Fortriu, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, and the Well of Shades. She also has the Shadowfell series, which includes Shadowfell, Ravenflight, and the Collar. And then, of course, she has the Blackthorn and Grim series, which she is currently writing. The first one is Dreamer's Pool, and the second book, which just came out, is The Tower of Thorns. In addition to this, she also has Heart's Blood, which I have also read, and it is basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling that takes place in Ireland. I really enjoyed this one. It wasn't as good as her other books, but I still really enjoyed it. Again, just as magical and whimsical as her other works. And this is a standalone novel, so this would be another suggested starting place for her books, in addition to the Sevenwaters Trilogy, if you're just wanting to read one book. In addition to these books, she also has various short story collections and short stories, so she's quite a prolific author. She has written a lot, and I really enjoy her works. I think that if you love fantasy, particularly historical fantasy, and you love fae stories, then you will really love her stories. Almost all of her books incorporate some aspect of the fae, including Heart's Blood, because though this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that takes place in Ireland, she does incorporate fae folk, and it is really good. So if you like Arthurian retellings, if you like fae stories, if you like historical fiction, I think that you will really enjoy Juliet Marillier's works. She has a lot to offer. She has a very lyrical way of writing. She draws you into it. It's very vivid, it's very beautiful, and definitely one of my favorite authors. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys will pick her up, and you'll have to let me know what you think of her if you do, or if you have read her, what your favorite book is by her. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!